Hey everybody, welcome to the show. This is Daily Drop number 6. I'm your host, Bobby Capucci, and we have a lot of new news tonight about Mr. Epstein. We even have a couple of new names. So we'll do what we do here and we'll jump right into these articles. The first article up, we have one from NBC News, and this article is about Jennifer Arose, a girl who was 14 years old when she was allegedly assaulted by Mr. Epstein and his cohorts. And in this affidavit here, these court papers filed, she identified not only two names that we were already aware of, but she named two more names that we were never aware of, well, at least that weren't named publicly. So the article is, like I said, by NBC News. That'll all be in the description, so you guys can go ahead and follow the link and take a look for yourself. And we'll start here and we'll do what we do. All right, so one of Jeffrey Epstein's accusers filed new court papers Tuesday identifying multiple women she says enabled the wealthy financiers. Once again, the wealthy financier. Come on, we know what he is. How about the, human trafficker, the abuser? You see what the media does here? The nonsense that they pull? Anyway, enable the wealthy financier sexual assaults. Jennifer Arose, who first told her story to NBC News in July, accused 4 people by name of helping facilitate Epstein's abuse of her starting when she was 14 years old. The 4 include Ghislaine Maxwell, who we know, Epstein's longtime companion, Rosalind Fontanilla, a former housekeeper who died in 2016, Leslie Groff, who we know, who worked as his secretary, and Kimberly Espinoza, a former executive assistant to Epstein, according to the court papers obtained by NBC News. Maxwell and Groff have been identified in previous court documents alleging that they enabled Epstein's abuse of young girls, but the amended complaint filed by Arose marks the first public allegation against Fontanilla and Espinoza. The defendants participated with and assisted Epstein in maintaining and protecting his sex trafficking ring, ensuring that approximately 3 girls a day were made available to him for his sexual pleasure, the lawsuit says. The co-conspirators provided organizational support to Epstein's sex trafficking ring, identifying and hiring the recruiters of underage girls for Epstein's sexual pleasure, scheduling appointments with these underage girls for Epstein's sexual pleasure, intimidating potential witnesses to Epstein's sex trafficking operation, and generally providing administrative oversight of his sex trafficking operation and ensuring it remained secret. Okay, wait a minute. Now, you're telling me that Joey Bag of Donuts in the Bronx has himself a little illicit bookmaking operation, and he gets caught up in a RICO case, and his buddy comes over, and he loans his buddy some money, and now his buddy is involved in his RICO case just because Joey Bag of Donuts loaned him some money. So you're telling me that that can occur when it comes to organized crime, but sex trafficking and abusing children, you can't slap them with the same RICO? Come on. It's the same sort of stuff. It's obviously a criminal enterprise. We went over this in the RICO episode. Traveling across state lines. So many different of the parameters are met of RICO. It's not even funny. And the only thing that's holding them back is that sweetheart deal. And that has to get overturned. It's being appealed, and I guess we'll see where that goes. Anyway, back to the article. NBC News has reached out to Espinoza's lawyers for Maxwell and representatives of Groff. In a statement, Groff's lawyer, Michael Bachner, denied that she engaged in any misconduct. Yeah, okay. Oh, another one. I don't shop. You kidding me? I knew nothing about any of this. How dare you even question me? All right, back to the article. As an executive assistant to Epstein, Leslie worked as part of a professional staff that included in-house attorneys, accountants, an office manager, and other office staff, Bachner said. Leslie's job included making appointments for Mr. Epstein as directed by him, taking his messages, and setting up high-level meetings with CEOs, business executives, I wonder who those were, scientists, politicians, and celebrities. Wait. At no time during Leslie's employment with Epstein did she ever engage in any misconduct. But every single category that was just listed has people that are accused of being involved. But she had no idea. All right, All right. I guess they want us to believe that. The lawsuit also named several companies owned by Epstein. The former money manager and accused child sex predator died by suicide inside his federal jail cell in New York City on August 10th while he was awaiting trial on charges of running a sex trafficking ring in the mid-2000s. Okay, well, oh boy. Every penny of his estate should go to the victims, a Rose lawyer Dan Kaiser told reporters Tuesday. I agree with that 100%. Rose alleges that she was repeatedly sexually assaulted by Epstein at his New York City townhouse when she was 14 and 15 years old, including a forcible rape in 2002. Rose says she was recruited outside her New York City high school by a brunette woman believed to be in her early 20s. The woman, whose identity is unknown, is described in court papers as Jane Doe number 1. In the new court documents, she alleges that Groff, an assistant to Epstein, often contacted her to set up sexual encounters with him. Espinoza, who was also an employee of an Epstein-owned company called NES, would also reach out to her to schedule visits, the suit says. There were also two assistants of Epstein's that would call Miss Rose, from Epstein's office to schedule these sexual encounters, who, like Miss Groff, would give her explicit instructions to follow upon arrival. The court papers say one of those assistants was Miss Espinoza, who Miss Ross would see at the property after speaking to. Now, that's written kind of weird. The encounters continued on a weekly basis, once or twice a week, through her freshman year of high school and into her sophomore year, according to the lawsuit. These sexual encounters with Epstein, which of course were horribly abusive sexual assaults of a child, became more aggressive and escalated, the lawsuit says. Okay, wait a minute. So, all these people that don't know anything see him with this real young girl, and what do they think's going on? They think she's just over to hang out. They're going to watch reruns of Alf. Maybe they're going to watch some TV, or I don't know. What could he possibly be doing with this young girl? She has since been interviewed by federal She first disclosed her alleged abuse publicly in an exclusive Today Show interview July 10th. The lawsuit she filed a month later alleges that Maxwell and 3 unnamed female household staff members conspired to facilitate the sexual abuse and rape of Ross. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce the name correctly. She has since been interviewed by federal investigators probing the Epstein associates accused of helping him prey on young girls. The FBI has scheduled 2 meetings with victims, one in New York and the other in Florida, for the end of October to update them on the status of the case. Well, what have we learned here? What we have learned here is we have some new names. One of them are dead, and the other we really don't know anything about since she hasn't been in the public scope right now. We haven't seen her. So, that'll give us something we can take a look at and see if that goes anywhere. And, hopefully it does. But it looks like the heat's being turned on the enablers, and we really like that because we've been pushing for that for a very long time here. And the people that were around him and the people that were helping him do this sort of thing by cultivating these girls and grooming them for him and bringing them around him, they all need to suffer. They all need to be punished within the fullest extent of the law quickly and very, very, very harshly. The next article we got is very interesting because it plays into the whole situation we've been talking about with Epstein being, owned by intelligence. So this article here is about how, according to Epstein's old butler, he was tipped off about his upcoming impending arrest. And this article goes into that a little bit, and we're going to go ahead and read it. It's from the Daily Mail. And, it's a pretty good look into what was going on with Epstein and some of the ways he was able to get away with this stuff. He was obviously protected, like we've talked about, and this article goes into that a little bit. So, Jeffrey Epstein knew that federal agents were preparing to arrest him when he returned to the United States back in July. Surprising to who? Not to anybody who's been following the case. This surprising bit of information was reported by the French press following an interview with Epstein's butler at his $10 million Paris apartment. Wait a minute. Epstein's butler at his $10 million Paris apartment? Interesting. Gabriel, who worked with Epstein for 18 years, I bet he knew nothing either, said that he learned of the arrest hours before the rest of the world thanks to a tip from his boss. Jeffrey Epstein trusted his male housekeeper, who said that he alerted him of his impending arrest, wrote one French journalist who interviewed Gabriel at length. He did not say how Epstein had obtained this information, however, so it is still unclear if federal agents informed him of their plan as his private jet headed back to the U.S. from France, or if one of his many law enforcement sources gave him a heads up. So now you have the Daily Mail admitting that he had sources within law enforcement, like we've been talking about. So that's just more verification that we're on the right track here. The arrest warrant for Epstein was signed on July 2nd by a U.S. magistrate, Barbara Moses, a judge for the Southern District of New York. That was 4 days before his plane arrived at Teterboro Airport on July 6th in the late afternoon. Now, we discussed earlier in the podcast that a lot of the flights going to the island left from Teterboro Airport as well. So I forget exactly what episode it is, but maybe the third episode. I think it's the third episode we discussed that. You could go back and check that out, and we talk about how a lot of the traffic was directed from Teterboro and how there's a lot of questions that still need to be asked about that airport, about, how come have employees of that airport been interviewed about people who they've seen with Epstein, et cetera, et cetera? None of that information's out there, so if that hasn't been done, why? Anyway, Epstein was not officially arrested, however, until July 8th, according to records from the U.S. Marshal Service that were obtained by DailyMail.com. The FBI declined to confirm or deny Gabriel's claims, while an NYPD spokesperson and the executors of Epstein's estate did not respond to the request for comment from DailyMail.com. It is also not clear if Epstein learned about his arrest before or after federal agents and members of the NYPD had moved in on his Upper East Side property. Now that's interesting. So, if he was tipped off before they even moved on his property, that means he was able to get rid of any evidence that he thought he needed to get rid of. Now, did he dispose of that evidence? Or was that evidence handed off to whoever his handler was for whatever intelligence agency he was obviously working for? Anyway, Epstein has a history of leaving his residence spotless ahead of criminal searches. Well, I wonder why. I wonder how he just knows. He just has that gut feeling, huh? The third eye. He just knows that he's about to get busted. He knows somebody's coming to get him. He knows his house is going to get raided. He knows that he's not going to get caught. He knows he can do what he wants with impunity because nobody's ever going to hold him to account. Why? Well, that's simple. Because his handlers they won't allow it. The Palm Beach police learned this back in 2005 when they raided Epstein's mansion, only to find that computers and hard drives had gone missing or had been wiped clean. Multiple sources tell DailyMail.com that Epstein was aware that he was being investigated, but he did not seem to be aware of the extent of the criminal probe launched by federal prosecutors. Two of those individuals also added that Epstein did truly believe he would be immune to any charges that prosecutors might try and charge him with because of the sweetheart plea deal he agreed to back in 2007 in Palm Beach. Well, yeah, why wouldn't he think that he's going to get away with it? That plea deal was one of the greatest plea deals in the history of plea deals. Everybody in his atmosphere who's ever been involved just gets exonerated because of this one plea deal? Boy, must be nice. Must be nice to know the right people, huh? The two-tier justice system, isn't it beautiful? It is believed that this was done to protect Epstein's famous friends, who Gabriel spoke about at length once again in his new interview. Bill and Melinda Gates loved his souffle, he said, while Steve Bannon came to stay with Epstein while meeting with Marine Le Pen in the French capital. Oh boy. Gabriel specifically remembers Bannon saying his visit came last fall and noting, "I was even his driver in Paris." Supposedly Bannon was there looking for capital. They don't state that in this article, but supposedly Bannon was there looking for capital, but Bannon says it never happened. Another one who doesn't know anything, right? Yeah, well, Steve Bannon, he's definitely a reliable source. Daily Mail reached out to a publicist for Bill and Melinda, who did not respond to a request for comment. Gates had been adamant, however, in the past that he had no personal relationship with the pedophile, though the two did spend time together. A source close to Bannon, meanwhile, said it never happened. I served crowned heads, diplomats, businessmen, and politicians, said the butler, who noted that Prince Andrew and former Israeli Prime Minister Barak were also guests at the residence. There was a revolving door of very young, very thin, very tall girls. Those girls, who Gabriel said all looked to be of age, were kept separate from the other guests at all times, according to the butler. Why would they be kept separate from the guests? Why would he do that? I don't even understand what that even means. Paris was one of Epstein's favorite places for the final decades of his life. Few photos exist of his time in the City of Lights, but there is one image taken by one of his accusers that shows the pedophile and Ghislaine Maxwell as they walk through Paris. Like I said, I'm going to link you guys in the description. You can follow the link and check the photo out. That photo and others were part of a trove of documents that were released earlier this month from the defamation case Roberts brought against Maxwell. Also in the photo, which was taken circa 2002 by Virginia Roberts Joffrey, is Jean-Luc Brunel. Oh, he's supposedly, we're going to get to him tomorrow, but there's some news about him as well, and it's kind of significant. A lawyer for Brunel said that he is willing to cooperate with officials in Paris who are investigating his former friend and business partner Epstein. Prosecutors in Paris are looking into possible charges of rape and sexual assault against Epstein, both for crimes that he allegedly committed on French soil, as well as ones he may have committed in other countries involving French citizens. Brunel's attorney, Corinne Dreyfus-Schmidt, denied that he is on the run and said that he has made himself available to authorities ever since the launch of this latest probe. Before even the preliminary investigation was launched, he made contact with the Paris prosecutor's office, informing it that he had remained at the disposal of authorities, said the attorney, yet he was in South America. Oh boy. Those same prosecutors are also looking into Brunel after 3 women came forward to allege that they were sexually assaulted or harassed by the Frenchman. Police began their probe into Brunel shortly after receiving a letter from a former Dutch model, Thijsse Huisman, who said that Brunel spiked her drink and then raped her in his apartment just days after the teenager moved to Paris and signed with his agency, Karen Models. Huisman said that she was aware of the statute of limitations had lapsed for her to press charges against Brunel for rape, but urged authorities to look into Brunel and his businesses. The office of Karen Models was raided last month by authorities. So, that's the end of that article, and there's a lot there. It's basically telling us that Jeffrey Epstein was protected, he had sources on high, and they were letting him know and tipping him off so he can get rid of whatever information he had or pass it off to whoever he needed to pass it off to. And why were they doing that? Who are they protecting? You have a guy that has been accused of the most heinous crimes, and they're protecting this man like he's that important. He's just an asset that just can't be gone without. So, it's nice to see that the pressure is being put on a little bit more, and these articles coming out, it verifies the things that we've been talking about. It proves that this man is being protected when you have an article like this pop up. And where's the mainstream media in America with this article? Where's this article being run all over the papers, all over the headlines of the news channels? It's not. NBC did some good work with the article with the new accusers. That's a decent piece. But this article over here about, the whole tipped off situation, you're not going to see that in the American press. That's something that they're shying away from because they realize that it's bad news for them if the American people find out that this guy, this child molester, this pedophile was being protected. And that's what's coming down the pipe, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, genders of all types. This is what's coming down the pipe. Eventually, it's going to happen. The pipe is going to burst, and the information is going to start to really flow. And when it does, we're going to be right there to report it. We're going to be right there to make sure that these people face justice, that the 2-tier justice system is no longer a thing that's going to happen in this country, because we can't have it. We can't have people like this getting away with what they get away with because of their status or their power or wealth. If you do something like this, there should be no quarter. You should face the most severe punishment of the most severe punishments. All right, everybody. I hope you guys have a great night. We'll be right back at it tomorrow with whatever news breaks and wherever the story leads us. Once again, with your help, we're hoping to make media great again. Talk to you guys tomorrow.